my dear all students, this is Neha Sharma and I welcome you all in your favorite biology class. So we are doing the chapter tissues and in our last class हम लोगों ने tissues में we have started with the plant tissues और एक basic हम लोगों ने difference किया था between the plant and animal tissue, right? And then उसके बाद में we have started with the parenchyma, right? हम लोगों ने plant tissue start किया और plant tissue में हम लोगों ने क्या पढ़ा? Parenchyma पढ़ा. Well, in this class, during this session, अगर आप लोगों को कोई भी doubt होता है, if you have any query, you have any doubt, you can ask your queries, you can ask your doubts on this number. This is WhatsApp number 9311 88 3484, right? So this is the WhatsApp number. You can ask your queries, you can ask your doubts on this number, right? Alright, so let's start today's class. हम लोगों ने last class में plant tissue start कर दिया है और plant tissue में भी parenchyma, that was the part of simple permanent tissue. Well, we have done meristematic tissue as well, right? So first we have categorized plant tissues into two parts, meristematic tissue and हमारा कौन सा आता है permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues that we have done. When we have started with this permanent tissue, so permanent tissue में हमारा first was the simple permanent and then the complex one. So simple was further divided into three parts, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, जिसमें हम लोगों ने parenchyma कर लिया है. So let's start today's class with the collenchyma. Well, if you will see this diagram, it is quite similar to the parenchyma tissue, right? So there are only few differences. और अगर आप लोगों को ये differences बहुत अच्छे से समझ आ गए, ठीक है? So you can easily compare the parenchyma with the collenchyma, ठीक है? वो इतना ज़्यादा मुश्किल नहीं लगेगा. So आप लोगों को वो सारे points बहुत अच्छे से ध्यान में रखने, बहुत अच्छे से याद करने हैं, जो हमारे point of differences बनेंगे. Let's start. So here it is first saying about the shape of the cells. So you know this collenchyma tissue consists of living cells, always remember. Parenchyma was the living and this collenchyma is also the living cell. So it is again living cell which is circular, oval or angular in shape. Then आता है next हमारा cells are elongated, longitudinally अगर मैं cells को देखूंगी of course वो मुझे कैसे दिखाई देंगे? Elongated. And irregularly thicken at the corners. Well, what does this mean by? It means अगर ये मेरी एक cell है, yes, here it is, one cell. So you will notice कि at the corners of the cell, here it is, these are the corners, right? At the corners you will see the deposition. ठीक है, वहाँ पर क्या है? Cell wall में deposition है. Now deposition of what? It is the extra pectin and cellulose. Plant cell है, cellulose तो होगा ही होगा, but apart from cellulose और क्या होगा वहाँ पर? Pectin भी होगा, right? Internally, each cell possesses a large central vacuole exactly like parenchyma. Large central vacuole होगी, because of that nucleus and cytoplasm कहाँ shift हो जाएंगे? Periphery पर shift हो जाएंगे, right? These cells may or may not have intercellular spaces. जब parenchyma में किया था तो हम लोगों ने पढ़ा कि intercellular spaces were present. While in this collenchyma, they are present or they are absent. And if these pores are present, they are of very small size. कैसे होंगे? बहुत ही small size के होंगे. They are very little, right? They often contain a few chloroplasts. And if I am saying that they consist chloroplasts, what is the function? Function क्या हो जाएगा? Photosynthesis, right? Okay. So this is the longitudinal section of the collenchyma tissue, and the upper diagram. This is showing TS. And in my last class मैंने आपको TS and LS में भी difference बताया था. TS transverse section होता है and LS is the longitudinal section. All right, let's move to the function, right? Function में दिख रहा है image and image में दिख रहा है कोई तूफान आ रहा है and still, right? जो हमारा plant है that is in a standing position. इतने ज़्यादा pressure को resist कैसे कर पा रहा है? It is again because of some tissues. So what sort of tissues are responsible for that function? It is again collenchyma, right? So collenchyma is a living mechanical tissue. कैसा है? Living. Yes, we have done that. It's a living tissue which provide mechanical support and elasticity, right? So it provides mechanical support and elasticity. Thus, it provide फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, राइट, इतने प्रेशर को ही प्लांट क्या कर रहा है, रेजिस्ट कर पा रहा है, राइट. सो ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, कॉलेनकाइमा का मेन फंक्शन क्या होता है, इट प्रोवाइड फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, दैट इज इजी बेंडिंग इन वेरियस पार्ट्स ऑफ द प्लांट विदाउट ब्रेकिंग. यस, विदाउट ब्रेकिंग. It is present at the margins of some leaves. Let's say this is leaf. So leaf के कहाँ present होता है, margins पर present होता है. Why? Why at the margins? Thus it resists tearing effect of the wind. Wind के tearing effect से भी क्या करता है, leaf को protect करता है, leaf को बचाता है. Okay? What are the other functions? That it allows growth and elongation of the plant organs. जो प्लांट के डिफरेंट ऑर्गन्स हैं उनकी ग्रोथ एंड एलोंगेशन में भी रिस्पॉन्सिबल है. ओके, बीइंग अ लिविंग टिश्यू, यस, ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, हियर इज द पॉइंट यू नीड टू रिमेंबर. इफ आई एम सेइंग दैट सम प्लांट टिश्यू इज लिविंग, ऑलवेज रिमेंबर उसका मेन फंक्शन के अलावा एक फंक्शन उसका फूड स्टोर करना जरूर होगा. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर इट, राइट. इफ आई एम सेइंग दैट सम प्लांट टिश्यू इज लिविंग, सो मीन्स इट स्टोर्स food. Collenchymal cells may contain chloroplast, and as I have told you, chloroplast means photosynthesis. Very simple, right? So these are the functions of Collenchyma. Let's start with the next tissue, that is Sclerenchyma. It is the third type of the tissue of the simple permanent tissue. Okay, it looks like this, a rubber band, you can say. Okay, the shape. Well, this is sclerenchymatous cell. The parenchyma, collenchyma were the living cells. But the sclerenchyma cells, these are the dead cell. And अभी मैं theory को read भी नहीं कर रही हूँ, and I'm just telling you one function. Always remember, अगर कोई part plant का dead है, so what is the basic function? Basic function होगा strength provide करना, mechanical strength provide करना, right? So Sclerenchyma cells are the dead, yes, as I have told you, these are the dead cells with little or no protoplasm, right? The cells are long, narrow and closely packed without any intercellular spaces. Parenchyma, intercellular spaces are present. Collenchyma, absent, and if they are present, they are of very small size. Sclerenchyma, absent. Point of difference, you need to learn, you need to note down this point. Okay, the wall of these cells are highly thickened. Okay, तो जो cell wall है, cell wall in case of parenchyma cellulose की बनी है, in case of collenchyma pectin के deposition है, sclerenchyma. So it is again a point of difference. Note it down. The wall of these cells are highly thickened due to uniform deposition of lignin. What's that? Lignin, right? A chemical substance which act as cement. Right, and hard them. तो वो क्या करता है, hardening provide करता है. The wall also contain unthickened areas. So it is not like कि जो thickening है वो एक regular thickening है. You can notice in this diagram as well. You people can see this is one cell. Let's say this is one cell. Here it is. And if I'm saying that lignin deposition is there, all right. So lignin deposit होता है, but not at the regular level. वो रेगुलरली नहीं है, irregular है. Irregular means somewhere it is present, somewhere it is not. And the site where this lignin is absent, can you see these pits, right? So this area is known as pits. What is known as? It is known as pits. Alright, so it is written over here. The wall also contain unthickened areas called pits between the thick walls. Thick walls make the cell hard. So what is the function? क्यों इतना ज़्यादा thick हुआ है? To make it hard, to make it strong and impermeable to water. Yes. So it is impermeable to water. If I'll say कि यहाँ से transpiration होगा, would it allow? No. क्यों? क्योंकि इसकी cell wall कैसी है? Sorry, उसका cell कैसी है? That is hard, that is strong and it is impermeable to water. Due to excessive thickening of the wall, its cavity or the lumen becomes narrow. Lumen कैसा हो जाएगा? Narrow. Now what is this lumen? मैम ये lumen क्या होता है? So lumen is this area. This is what is lumen of the cell. So this is TS, transverse section, lumen narrow. ये जो point है ये हमें LS view में बहुत clearly visible होता है. Now you can see this lumen. It is narrow, है ना. सेल कैसी है? elongated है, tapering ends है. You can see tapering ends, right? Lumen कैसा है? It is narrow. Why it is narrow? Because of the deposition of lignin, and the site where the lignin is absent, that is known as pits. हम उसे क्या बोलते हैं? Pit बोलते हैं. All right. So this is about sclerenchyma, tissue के जो basic points हैं. Now moving to the functions of sclerenchyma. जब चैप्टर स्टार्ट किया था, एट द टाइम आई हैव टोल्ड यू कि हम लोगों को हर एक टिश्यू पढ़ना है, लोकेशन पढ़नी है, फंक्शन पढ़ना है. ये 3 पॉइंट्स यू नीड टू रिमेंबर. टिश्यू, इट्स स्ट्रक्चर, वो कैसा दिखाई देगा, कहाँ प्रेजेंट होगा. जब तक मुझे यही नहीं पता होगा कि ये टिश्यू पर्टिकुलरली कहाँ प्रेजेंट होगा, हाउ कैन आई टेल द फंक्शन, राइट? सो यू नो इट, दिस इज द की पॉइंट टू लर्न दिस टिश्यू. इफ यू नो द लोकेशन वेयर इट इज प्रेजेंट, यू कैन इजीली लर्न द फंक्शन. वाइस वर्सा, अगर आपको फंक्शन पता है तो भी आप उसकी लोकेशन बहुत इजीली बता सकते हैं, राइट? ओके, सो लेट्स मूव टू द फंक्शन ऑफ sclerenchyma. The sclerenchyma is it's a dead tissue, mechanical tissue which protect the plant. Yes, I have told you, it protect the plant. It provides strength to the plant parts. Yes. The husk of coconut. So what is husk of coconut? Yes, I know कि सब लोगों ने नारियल खाया है. नारियल सब लोग खाते हैं. So you people have noticed this brown hairy like structures, है ना, जिन्हें हम remove कर देते हैं. So बच्चा, this hairy like structures, this is husk. So this husk of coconut, it is also made up of sclerenchyma. It yields coir. इससे क्या बनता है? कॉयर बनता है ना. व्हाट इज द फंक्शन? हम कॉयर को क्यों बना रहे हैं? इसका कमर्शियल यूज क्या है? सो दिस कॉयर, अ वेल नोन फाइबर यूज्ड फॉर मेकिंग मैट, ब्रशेस एटसेट्रा. ठीक है. सो जो हमारे घरों में एज वेल एज यू नो जो रस्सियां होती हैं, यस यू कैन सी दीज रोप्स, राइट, ये भी हमारी किससे बनती हैं? sclerenchyma पार्ट से ही बनते हैं. क्योंकि यू सी, ये जो टिश्यू है प्लांट के लिए तो फंक्शनल है ही है, बट हमारे लिए भी, हम भी इसे कमर्शियल प्रोडक्शन के लिए यूज करते हैं, कमर्शियल पर्पज के लिए यूज करते हैं, राइट? सो sclerenchyma इज ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इन पेयर. यस, नाशपाती, पेयर, guava. The crunchiness of these fruits, that crunchiness is because of sclerenchyma. So sclerenchyma is also present in pear and guava, where it provides crunchiness to these fruits. Yes, it provides crunchiness to the fruits. So this is about the function of sclerenchyma tissue. See, before going to start this, है ना, एक बारी summarize करते हैं कि हम लोगों ने क्या पढ़ा है अभी तक, right? So as I have told you, सबसे पहले we have started with the meristematic tissue. And I have also told you that this meristematic tissue was the parent tissue, है ना. यही meristematic tissue में differentiation होती है, and after differentiation different kind of tissues were formed. So this meristematic tissue leads to the formation of permanent tissue. And in case of permanent tissues, we were discussing simple permanent tissues. Simple permanent tissue में हम लोगों ने पढ़ा parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Then after that we will study about the complex permanent tissues. But you know what happens, that in between means the simple permanent tissue. Plants के case में simple permanent tissues, they get modified at certain specific locations and leads to the formation of protective tissue. So one more tissue we need to understand, we need to study, that is the protective tissue. So here it is, protective tissue. So first we will study about this protective tissue and then we will move to the complex permanent tissues. So I hope so, plant के case में tissues का एक overview हम सब लोगों को समझ आ गया है, right? So let's start with the protective tissues. As their name suggests, क्या function होगा इन protective tissues का? So that is protective in nature, of course. इसका नाम ही हमें बता रहा है कि इसका क्या function होगा. So it's a tissue that covers the plant parts, such as all the parts, you know. So like roots, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits, and thereby it protects them against adverse environmental factors and pathogens. Yes. So these protective tissues, इनका function क्या है कि जो भी adverse environmental conditions हैं उनसे plant को protect करना as well as from the pathogens. Now what kind of pathogens we are talking about here? See, pathogens means we are talking about any kind of bacterial infection, any kind of fungal infection, worms का infection जो plants को होते हैं, उनसे कौन बचाता है? Protective tissues. Well, these protective tissues are of two types, that is epidermis and cork. What's that? Epidermis and cork. Hope so you have remembered this term cork when we were doing the chapter cell. I have told you Robert Hooke, you know, he took a very small piece of this bark. So bark was the part of this cork only, है ना? फिर वहाँ से हम लोगों ने पढ़ा था कि Robert Hooke ने cell को discover किया and cells were dead, right? So here it is the cork. अब हम इसका detailed structure पढ़ेंगे. So let's start with epidermis. Epi means upon. Okay, epi का मतलब क्या है? Upon. Dermis means skin, right? So it is the outermost layer of the plant organ. किसी भी plant organ की outermost layer कौन सी होती है? That is epidermis. Epidermis is covered by a layer of cuticle. So what it is? It is cuticle. So let's draw this structure only, then आपको चीजें बहुत अच्छे से समझ आएंगी. So let's say I'm drawing this leaf. Okay. अब अगर इस लीफ का मैं आपको अगर एक माइक्रोस्कोपिक व्यू दिखाऊं तो फर्स्ट मुझे क्या दिखाई देगा? You know, this membrane, and here it is the epidermis. So outermost part of any plant organ, that is the outermost layer, is the epidermis. Here you can see I have drawn these cells without intercellular spaces, right? So यहाँ पर कोई भी intercellular spaces मैंने draw नहीं किए क्योंकि होते ही नहीं है. These cells are closely packed, right? So closely packed होते हैं. This is one of the characteristic feature of these cells. So epidermis is covered by a layer, and that layer is known as cuticle. The cuticle is a waterproof layer. It's a waterproof layer. So the cuticle is a waterproof layer which is made up of a waxy substance, and that waxy substance is known as cutin. Sometimes we used to observe, you know, कोई leaf है जो कि बहुत shine कर रही है ना? So that shining is because of this waxy layer. This is cutin, which is secreted by the epidermal cells. Cutin को secrete कौन करेगा? Epidermal cells itself. एपिडर्मल सेल्स क्या करेंगे? क्यूटिन सिक्रीट करेंगे, एंड दिस क्यूटिन क्या करेगा? पूरी एपिडर्मिस को कवर करेगा लाइक दिस, एंड ये क्या बनाएगा? क्यूटिकल. आई होप सो चीजें समझ आ गई होंगी. दिस एड्स इन प्रोटेक्शन अगेंस्ट वाटर लॉस, मैकेनिकल इंजरी एंड इन्वेजन बाय पैरासिटिक फंगाई. तो वो इन्वेजन ऑफ पैरासिटिक फंगाई से बचाता है, वाटर लॉस से भी प्रोटेक्ट करता है. सो दीज आर दी बेसिक characteristic feature of the epidermal cells. Now let's start with the stomata. See why I have selected this part, stomata, here. Well, let me tell you, in the leaf epidermis tiny pores are present, and these tiny pores are known as stomata, right? So हम epidermis के बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं और stomata के बारे में ना पढ़ें, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. Okay, so this is the structure of stomata, and we all are aware about the structure of stomata, that it consists two guard cells. These are the bean shaped, yes, these are the bean shaped guard cells, two guard cells. Guard cells are the, now listen me carefully, guard cells are the only epidermal cells which consist chloroplast, right? So here you can see these guard cells are surrounded by, you can see surrounded by epidermal cells. So these are the outer one are the epidermal cells. These two the bean shaped cells, these are the like guard cells. Guard cells consist nucleus, here it is nucleus, and it also consists chloroplast. So हमारे पूरे स्टोमेटा के स्ट्रक्चर में these guard cells are the only cells which consist chloroplast. और chloroplast है तो इसका function photosynthesis. All right. So these guard cells, these are the kidney shaped cells. Here it is in dicot. While in case of monocot, these guard cells are the dumbbell shaped. Always remember, dumbbell. Yes, that dumbbell. Okay. So, guard cells, these are the dumbbell shaped in monocot. Here it is. It somewhat looks like these dumbbells, right? So, these are the dumbbell shaped in case of monocot, while in case of dicot, these are kidney shaped guard cells. Okay. So, stomata regulate the gaseous exchange and transpiration. So, what is transpiration? It is loss of water in the form of water vapors. That is transpiration. So, the basic function of this stomata is the gaseous exchange and transpiration. These are the functions. So, function of epidermis. What is the function of epidermis? So, function क्या होगा? That epidermis is the outer protective layer of the plant. तो main function क्या हुआ? That is protection. That prevent the entry of pathogens and pests and therefore protect the underlying tissue. So, this is quite clear point. Next, due to the presence of cuticle, as I have told you, cuticle layer is present and cuticle का main function क्या था? To prevent from the water loss, right? So, it check the rate of water loss from the aerial part of the plant. See, किसी भी tissue के अगर आपको characteristic points याद हो गए हैं तो functions को derive करना बहुत आसान है. आप देख ही रहे हैं, these 2 points we have done in the characteristic points. And on the basis of those particular points, हम क्या derive कर सकते हैं? Functions. Occurrence of epidermal hair produces an insulating layer of stationary air which reduces the rate of transpiration. So, you know, there are the hair-like structures present on the stem. वो क्या करते हैं? Insulating covering कर लेते हैं. तो they act as insulating layer, right? So, this is again the part of epidermis. Hence, it comes under the function of epidermis. Then the stomata present in the epidermis, it regulate exchange of gases. वो क्या करता है? Exchange of gases को regulate करता है. Stomata are responsible for major loss of water by transpiration. है ना? अभी मैंने आपको stomata का function बताया, that is the gaseous exchange and transpiration. These 2 points are written over here. Epiblema. Now, what is this epiblema? Always remember roots की epidermis. Listen me carefully. The epidermis again unicellular है ना, single celled ही होती है. These are kind of like this. So these are the root hairs. This is epidermis. The epidermis of root which consists root hairs, that is known as epiblema. क्या बोलते हैं हम उसको? Epiblema. So this epiblema or the epidermis of root along with its root hairs take part in absorption of water and minerals. It is quite clear function because we know it very well कि roots का function क्या होता है? To absorb water and minerals. So root hairs क्या करते हैं? Water और minerals को absorb करते हैं. Hence epidermis का function भी क्या हो जाएगा? Water absorption. Very clear. All right. So this is about epidermis, the first protective tissue. Now, let's move to the second protective tissue, that is the cork. So before going to start this cork, एक बारी summarize करते हैं. First, I have started with the Collenchyma. Collenchyma के बारे में हम लोगों ने उसके characteristic features and functions को study किया. Then I have started with the Sclerenchyma. Well, this Collenchyma was the living cell. Sclerenchyma was the dead cell, right? Dead है तो main function is mechanical strength provide करना, and Collenchyma का basic function was the flexibility, provide flexibility. All right. Then मैंने आपको बताया कि simple permanent tissues get modified and they form protective tissues. वो क्या बनाते हैं? Protective tissues बनाते हैं. See, these protective tissues are of 2 types: epidermis, cork. Epidermis we have done. These are the cells covered by the cuticle. Cuticle is made up of cutin, which is secreted by epidermal cells itself. Then I have told you this because of the presence of this cuticle, you know, it prevents the plant or the organ from the invasion of pathogen as well as it check water loss. So these were the functions of cuticle. Then we have done the function of stomata. Why? Because in the epidermis of leaf, stomatas are present. And what is the function of stomata? That is gaseous exchange and transpiration. 2 functions. Then I have told you about the function of root epidermis and what we called it as epiblema. So epiblema का function क्या था? That was the absorption of water and minerals. One more point about the epidermis. Let's move to here only. So you know the hard part of the plant, like the stem, okay. So stem consists epidermis में ही, let's say this is stem. So this stem consists small pores and these small pores are known as lenticels. अभी ये lenticel मैं आपको आगे भी बताऊंगी cork में, because this stem hard part, that is the part of cork or the bark. So I'll cover this portion later. So let's start about the cork. So you know what happens in certain regions, what happens, this epidermis, okay. Epidermis is replaced by cork cambium. Epidermis is replaced by cork cambium. So अगर young plant है, so वहाँ पर कौन सा tissue होगा, epidermis. But धीरे धीरे हम क्या देखते हैं कि जो हमारा plant है, it starts growing and after that क्या बनने लगता है, bark बनने लगता है वहाँ पे, है ना. So in that case, this epidermis is replaced by cork cambium or phloem, right. Phloem is also known as secondary meristem. Secondary meristem, okay. And always remember this secondary meristem is the part of old plants. जो हमारे young plants होंगे वहाँ पर क्या होता है, epidermis होती है, all right. Then what happens later, this phloem get differentiate. Phloem further divide करता है and it form two layers. On the outer side, it form phloem or the cork. Let's understand in this way. Let's say this is epidermis. Now I am saying this epidermis gets modified and it form phloem. इस epidermis ने क्या बनाया, phloem. Now let's consider this is as phloem. I am saying this phloem on its outer side, ये phloem on its outer side ये क्या बनाएगी, phloem, and on its inner side ये क्या बनाएगी, phloem. Okay. So let's see. Yes, I have diagram as well. Yeah, here it is. So you can see, let's say this is the epidermis and this epidermis now further differentiate हुई है different type of tissues में. This was the first layer. On its outer side it form, here are the cells, you can see closely packed cells, and these are the cells which are present at the lower side. So on its outer side it form phloem. So these are the phloem. And here are the, which cells? Phloem cells. Yes. On its inner side it forms phloem. So these are the phloem cells. Alright. But what you can notice here that ma'am, here is a tiny pore. An opening is here. Yes. And this opening is known as lenticel. So this was the point I was talking about. This is lenticel, right? Now what is the function of this lenticel? Lenticel helps in gaseous exchange. Yes. Always remember in the epidermis of leaf, कौन से pores present हैं? Stomata. While in the epidermis, in the stem, on the stem there are the pores. We called it as lenticel और वहाँ पर lenticel का function क्या होता है? Gaseous exchange. तो stem में भी gaseous exchange होती है. Yes, always remember it is not like कि जो हमारी bark है, bark में pores नहीं होते. Very minute pores. Okay, and pores are known as lenticels. Function of lenticels is gaseous exchange. So this is the diagram. This is the sectional view, right, of the cork. So phloem on its outer side form phloem, on its inner side it forms phloem. Here are the lenticels. Well, these cells, you know the cells of phloem, these are the dead cells. Always remember, these are the dead cells. Alright, so cork is light in weight. कभी अगर आप bark को देखेंगे, कभी अगर आप cork को देखेंगे, you will notice it's very light in weight. So it is light in weight and doesn't catch fire easily due to these properties, you know. So it is used for making insulators, shock absorbers and sports good. Example, what kind of sports goods में हम लोग use करते हैं? That is the shuttlecock, cricket balls, wooden paddles of table tennis, etc. So yes, हमारे जो sports goods होते हैं, वहाँ पर भी हम कौन सा plant का part use करते हैं? That is the cork. And this was the reason, because of this cork, you know, in 1665 रॉबर्ट हुक ने सेल को डिस्कवर किया, you know. So cork, यहाँ से हम लोगों ने क्या समझा, इसका structure, where it is present and how it is important for us. So this is about cork. All right. So cork protect the plant from the harmful microorganisms. Microorganisms से protect करता है. It provide protection against desiccation. So what is desiccation? We used to call it कि कहीं parts of Rajasthan or wherever people used to call कि वहाँ पर सूखा पड़ रहा है, drought conditions है. So that is known as desiccation. As well as it provide protection against mechanical injury, extreme temperature, fire and browsing animals. Like yes, this is one of the, you know, during the course of evolution, this is one of the mechanism. Yes, plants का भी evolution हुआ है in a same manner like animals evolved. Okay, so plant के केस में भी certain protective tissues develop. आप लोगों ने notice किया होगा कि कोई बहुत बड़ा सा tree है, उसके ऊपर बहुत thick bark है, animals उसको bite नहीं कर सकते, animals उसको graze नहीं कर सकते, नहीं खा सकते, because of the presence of this cork, है ना. लेकिन अगर कोई एक fleshy stem है, green stem है, young plant है, animals उसको easily खा सकते हैं, you know. So this is one of the hence it is known as protective tissue, you know. वो plant को क्या कर रहा है, protect कर रहा है. Then multi-layered impervious cork prevent loss of water by evaporation and transpiration. So yes, बहुत thick है, multi-layered है, hence वो किस में protect कर रहा है, prevent the water loss. Cork possess lenticels and lenticels का function क्या बताया था मैंने, that is the gaseous exchange. So it possesses lenticels for the exchange of gases between the underlying tissue and the atmosphere. Lenticels are permanently open pores present in the cork of a tree. Always remember. हम लोगों ने stomata के case में, you know what, stomatas, they can close, open, close, open. It depends upon the need of the plant. Plant को कब need है, ठीक है? As well as certain osmosis conditions are there, because of that जो plant, जो pores हैं हमारे, stomatal pores I'm talking about, they open and they get closed. But these lenticels जिनका function क्या है, exchange of gases, लेकिन ये कैसे होते हैं, permanently open pores होते हैं, right? So these are the open pores present in the cork of a tree. So this is about cork. Let's start with complex permanent tissues. So what is the basic difference between this complex permanent tissue and simple permanent tissue? So in case of simple permanent tissue, I have told you that these are the tissues which are made up of one kind of cells. Let's say parenchymatous cells है, वो सारे के सारे cells जो होंगे वो same type के होंगे. But this complex permanent tissue consists more than one kind of cells. तो जो सारे cells हैं, they are not similar. वो similar नहीं होते. So it consists of more than one type of cells having a common origin. Yes, they must have same origin, common origin, which coordinate to perform a common function. जो क्या करते हैं, आपस में different cells जो है coordinate करते हैं and they perform a common function. Well, these complex permanent tissues are of two types, that is the xylem and phloem. वो कितने type के होते हैं, xylem and phloem, and combinedly we call them as vascular tissues. And हम सब जानते हैं xylem का function is to transport water while the function of phloem is to transport food. ये हम लोग 7th class में भी पढ़ के आ चुके हैं. So let's start with the xylem. It is vascular as well as mechanical tissue. Vascular means it helps in transportation of water transport करता है, as well as mechanical tissue. और mechanical tissue के लिए मैंने आपको एक characteristic feature बताया था, that means cells कैसे होते हैं, dead. जो भी tissue dead होगा वो क्या provide करेगा, mechanical strength provide करेगा, and here it is mechanical tissue. So that means the cells of xylem कैसे होंगे, dead होंगे. But क्या ये सारे टाइप के सेल्स डेड होंगे, नो, I'll tell you about it. So this xylem, it composed of 4 kind of cells, 4 kind of elements, right? And that is tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and Xylem Sclerenchyma. So these four kind of cells, four kind of elements, they combinedly form xylem. These are the tracheids, vessels. You can easily see the various, the structural differences between these cells. Xylem Parenchyma and Xylem Sclerenchyma. Always remember, Xylem Parenchyma is the only living element. So it is the only living element. All cells, ये भी कैसी होगी? Dead. This one, dead. And here it is also dead cell. So Xylem Parenchyma, these are the only living cells. Rest हमारे सारे cells कैसे होंगे? Dead. So majority composition xylem का कैसा है? Dead. Hence function, mechanical strength, right? So the very first it is tracheids. These are the elongated dead cells with hard lignified walls. Vessels. These are the shorter and wider than tracheids. Tracheids के comparatively जो vessels होते हैं वो कैसे होते हैं? Shorter होते हैं and wider होते हैं. So ये क्या करते हैं? हमारा main conducting channel बनाते हैं. Always remember. Okay. So these are the shorter and wider than the tracheids. They arrange themselves. So जो हमारे vessels हैं वो कैसे करते हैं? They arrange themselves in a row like this. Okay. They place like this. They make a row one upon the other, forming long tube-like structures for long distance transport. Because of that only, क्या होगा? Root से जो water के transportation है, it occurs to various body parts. So यहाँ पे क्या होता है? जो vessels होते हैं वो क्या बनाते हैं? Long conducting tube-like एक channel बनाते हैं. Okay? So this is about vessel. Let's move to the parenchyma. Parenchyma are the only living element. So it is written over here, right? So it is the only living element in the xylem tissue. It stores living hair. So what is the basic function? Stores food. So it stores food and helps in lateral conduction of water. वो क्या करता है? Water की lateral conduction. Lateral conduction का मतलब है sideways. No? So it conduct water in the sideways. Next is xylem fiber. Xylem fibers are sclerenchymatous in nature. तो कैसा होगा? Sclerenchyma nature है means it is dead. See, now you can see कि कैसे हमारे सारे points connected हैं, है ना? आपको कोई एक term समझ में आनी चाहिए और next time अगर वो कोई same point वहाँ पे repeat हो रहा है, now you can interconnect. So xylem fibers are sclerenchymatous means they are dead cells. These are mainly supportive in function and provide mechanical strength to the plant, right? These do not conduct water. Always remember this point. Xylem fiber का main function क्या है? Strength provide करना, not to conduct water. Always remember this point. So this is about the four kind of elements. What is the function of xylem tissue? It conduction of water and minerals. Vessel. Remember tracheids and vessels. It also provide mechanical strength. Yes, xylem fibers, xylem sclerenchyma is there. Food storage, xylem parenchyma. Being the living tissue, उसका main function क्या है? That it stores food. So these are the functions of xylem tissue. Let's start with the next tissue, that is the phloem. Like the xylem, this phloem also consists different type of elements. So phloem consists 5 different type of elements, and that is sieve cells, sieve tube, companion cells, Phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers or the bast fibers. So here are the 5 kind of elements, while in case of xylem there were the 4, right? So let's start one by one. Yes, one point need to remember here. See, sieve cell, sieve tube, companion cells, xylem parenchyma, these all cells are living. Only one cell is dead, that is phloem or bast fibers. This is dead. Rest जितने भी ये हमारे cells हैं, these all cells are living cells, right? So let's start one by one. Sieve cells, these are the less specialized and primitive type of sieve elements. They occur in phloem of non-flowering plant. तो वो कहाँ पर present होता है? In the phloem of non-flowering plant. और flowering plant हमारे कौन से हैं? Angiosperms, है ना? So angiosperms में नहीं होंगे, right? So this is very important from your Olympiad point of view. बहुत बार ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है. So next is sieve tube. Sieve tube की shape अगर आप देखेंगे, it looks like this. They again sits upon each other and they form here a plate-like structure. This plate is known as sieve plate. Okay. So these are the tube-like structures. Tube-like हैं. Okay. It is composed of elongated, thin-walled cells called sieve tube elements. Sieve plate present होती है. What is that? The cells are placed end to end and this area collectively known as sieve plate. So here it is sieve plate. You can see जहाँ पर दो जो हमारे sieve tube cells हैं, right? They sits upon each other and they form, क्या form करते हैं? Sieve plate form करते हैं. Okay, and you can see this is perforated. Pores are present because of the pores, presence of pores. जो हमारा food है वो कैसे both the directions में move कर सकता है. Always remember, xylem conduct करता है in a unidirectional way, but phloem वो both directions में conduct कर सकता है, upward as well as downward. While this xylem upward conduction करता है. Always remember this point. Okay. Next is about companion cells. So you know these sieve tubes. Here it is sieve tube. You can say this is sieve tube. Here it is cell plate. अभी हम लोगों ने पढ़ा इसके बारे में sieve plate. But these cells are surrounded by companion cells. Okay, you can see these companion cells here. One point you can notice here that these, you know, these sieve tubes are enucleated. Enucleated means nucleus is absent here. While companion cells के पास में क्या है? Nucleus present है. So अगर nucleus absent है तो फिर ये अपनी activities के लिए किसके ऊपर responsible है? किसके ऊपर rely करता है? Right? So these cells, you know, the companion cells का basic function क्या होता है? They provide all kind of RNA, all kind of protein to these cells. ठीक है, तो वो अपनी बेसिक फंक्शनल एक्टिविटीज के लिए जो हमारी सीव ट्यूब है वो किसके ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है? इट इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन कंपेनियन सेल. सो दिस इज द मेन फंक्शन ऑफ दिस कंपेनियन सेल, राइट? सो दीज सेल्स लाई ऑन दी साइड्स ऑफ सीव ट्यूब. नेक्स्ट इज फ्लोएम पैरेनकाइमा. सो दीज आर दी लिविंग सेल ऑफ कोर्स. और उसके बाद में अगर मैं बात करूं सीव ट्यूब की, सीव प्लेट की, सीव सेल्स की, दीज और सेल्स हमारे कैसे थे? लिविंग सेल्स थे. So these are the living cell which stores food like resins. Apart from food, they also stores resins, latex, etc. So that means the basic function of this phloem parenchyma is to store, right? The cells help in slow conduction of food, especially to the sides. So here it is side conduction में कौन help करता है? Phloem parenchyma. Phloem or the bast fibers, these are the dead cells. Right? So these are the dead sclerenchymatous fibers which provide mechanical strength by being dead. है ना? This is the point. So being dead इनका basic function क्या होगा? They provide mechanical strength. All right. So functions of phloem, it transport food materials through the phloem. Commercial products, that means certain fibers we obtain from the phloem fiber. That is the jute, hemp, flax. ये हम कहाँ से obtain करते हैं? Phloem tissue से. Then, so this is about the phloem. So we have done in case of plant tissue, that is meristematic, simple permanent and complex permanent tissues, and epidermal tissues, protective tissues as well. So हम लोगों ने plant tissue we have done, we have covered. Let's start with animal tissues, right? So on the basis of animal tissues, like okay, so you know plants are simpler as compared to animals. We know it very well. कि प्लांट सिंपल हैं एनिमल्स के कंपैरेटिवली. भाई जब प्लांट्स में डिफरेंट टाइप के टिश्यूज प्रेजेंट हैं तो कैन यू थिंक कि एनिमल्स में भी डिफरेंट टाइप के टिश्यूज होंगे? सारे टिश्यूज सेम होंगे? सो सारे टिश्यूज हमारे कैसे होते हैं? डिफरेंट टाइप के टिश्यूज होते हैं. यस, इट इज क्वाइट क्लियर. सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ फंक्शंस, वेल दिस यू नो दिस क्लासिफिकेशन इज बेस्ड ऑन द फंक्शंस. So on the basis of functions, animal tissues are broadly classified into 4 kind of tissues, that is epithelial, connective, muscular, nervous. नाम से ही समझ में आ रहा है epithelial. मैम ये तो कुछ अभी हमें ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे epidermis के बारे में पढ़ा. Yes, it's true. You know the skin, the outermost जो हमारा tissue है, outermost जो layer होगी, that is the epithelial tissue. Connective tissue नाम से समझ में आ रहा है किसी चीज को connect करेगा, है ना? Muscular tissue, you know, I'm writing. That is because of this muscular tissue. Because this muscular tissue क्या कर रहा है? Contract कर रहा है, relax कर रहा है. Because of this activity, I can move my hand, right? Nervous tissue, all these sensations, this brain, this spinal cord, everything, all the coordination जितना हमारी body में हो रहा है, that is because of nervous tissue. तो one by one, this is quite interesting part because it is about us, है ना? जो भी चीज हम अपने बारे में पढ़ते हैं वो हमें ज्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग लगती है. मतलब मेरे साथ ऐसा है. All right. So let's start with epithelial tissues first. So epithelial tissue is the simplest type of tissue in animals. One point is clear from this point. कि भाई epithelial tissue हमारे सबसे simple tissues हैं. Connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissue में हमें बहुत कुछ पढ़ना है. ठीक है? So these are the simplest tissues. Epithelial cells lie on a delicate non-cellular fibrous basement membrane. Always remember the cells of epithelial tissue. Let's say these are the cells of epithelial tissue. They lie on a basement membrane. So here it is basement membrane. This white colored जो मैंने एक layer बनाई है, this is what? It is basement membrane. So the cells of epithelial tissue, they lie on a basement membrane, and this basement membrane is made up of collagen protein. Always remember, most abundant protein है human body की, that is the collagen. Okay. So this basement membrane is made up of collagen protein. Epithelium covers most of the organs just like epidermis, right? And cavities within the body, and it forms a barrier to keep different body systems separate. Of course, it's a protective layer. तो वो क्या कर रही है? Separate भी करेगी ना एक system को दूसरे system से. ठीक है? So these 2 points are interconnected. Okay? Depending upon the shape and functions of these cells. So alright, these epithelial tissue, they are further of different types. On the basis of what? On the basis of their shape, on the basis of their function, on the basis of their location. है ना? कौन कहाँ present है, क्या function कर रहा है और कैसी उसकी shape है. On the basis of that, जो हमारे epithelial tissues है, they are of further of different types. That is squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium, glandular epithelium, and ciliated epithelium. So these are the further categorization of epithelial tissue. Let's start with first, that is the squamous epithelium. So squamous epithelium, it is made up of thin, flat, polygonal cells with the irregular boundaries which fit together like tiles to form a compact tissue. So you can clearly see in this diagram that these cells are closely packed. है ना? Tiles की जैसी location, tiles के जैसी appearance हमें इनकी दिखाई दे रही है. So it is also known as pavement epithelium. Always remember this point. So you have to note down this point. Okay? So these squamous epithelium, this is also known as pavement epithelium. So squamous epithelium can be simple or stratified. हम कब simple term use करेंगे, कब stratified? जब cells की only there is one layer. When there is one layer, we call it as simple, and when it is multi-layered, we call it as stratified. So squamous epithelium हमारी कैसी होती है? It could be simple squamous epithelium, or it could be stratified squamous epithelium. Okay. So here it is the diagrammatic presentation. You can see in the first diagram closely packed cells, nucleus. This consists nucleus, cytoplasm, and this is the vertical view. And here it is basement membrane. You can see. Okay. Moving to the next, that is the cuboidal epithelium. Cuboidal epithelium के अगर मैं structure की बात करूँ तो cells more or less they are squarish in shape. So cells की shape कैसी होती है? Square, right? So they are squarish in shape with a round nucleus. Always remember this nucleus is centrally located. Nucleus कहाँ होगा? Central में located होगा. And there it is the cytoplasm. So this is the diagram. This is the picture showing the structure of cuboidal epithelium. Moving to the occurrence, where it is present. कहाँ present होता है? So it is present in the lining of kidney tubules and thyroid vesicles, as well as in the ducts of salivary glands, duct of pancreas, and duct of sweat glands. Ovaries में भी present है, testis के ducts में भी present होता है. So always remember कहाँ present होगा? Ducts में present होगा. What is the function? Function is in the protection absorption, excretion and secretion. So किसी पार्ट में ये क्या कर रहा है, absorption का function कर रहा है, कहीं पर excretion, कहीं पर protection. But these are the functions. It also provide mechanical support to the duct of salivary gland and pancreatic duct. So pancreatic duct and salivary gland के जो ducts है वहां पर ये क्या function कर रहा है, mechanical support provide कर रहा है. It in the ovaries and testes it produce gametes. तो वहां पर क्या produce करता है, gamete produce करता है. So these are the functions of cuboidal. Next is columnar. You can see the shape. These are quite elongated cells and here you can clearly see that the nucleus is present at the base of the cell. Nucleus कहाँ present होता है, at the base of the cell. So these cells are elongated and are placed side by side like a column. वो क्या बनाते हैं, column जैसी appearance हमें दिखाई देती है. The nuclei are somewhat elongated along the long axis of the cells and they lie near the base of the cells. This is the point. Certain cells of this epithelium, they produce mucus and are called goblet cells. इसके कुछ cells क्या produce करते हैं, mucus produce करते हैं and we call them as goblet cells. Okay. Cells bear microvilli on their free ends for increasing the absorption area. Okay. So अगर मैं बोल रही हूँ cells में microvilli present है like this. So villi का function क्या होता है, it increase absorption area. Surface area को increase करता है for absorption. So this is the structure, occurrence. It is present in the lining of stomach, small intestine, colon, lining of gallbladder and oviducts. Function. The main function of this epithelium is the absorption and secretion. Absorption and secretion. Being a surface layer, it provides protection to the underlying tissue. So that means it acts as protecting tissue as well. ठीक है, वो protecting tissue की तरह भी function करता है. Glandular epithelium. Structure, so it is sometimes a portion of columnar epithelium. So that means glandular epithelium को कौन सा tissue बनाता है हमारा, columnar, right? So columnar tissue gets modified and it forms multicellular gland. कहाँ present होता है, gastric gland, intestinal glands and pancreatic lobules. Whereas it has secretory role. So इसका function क्या होता है, secretion. Function is to, that is the function of this gland is the secretion. So this is the diagram. You can clearly see कि यहाँ पर हमारी columnar cell ने क्या बना दिया है, modify होकर glandular cell. Last one is the ciliated epithelium. Structure, some cuboidal or columnar cells have cilia. ठीक है, तो कई बार क्या होता है, columnar और cuboidal cells के ऊपर क्या present होते हैं, cilia. It is present at the parts of nephron, trachea and oviducts. What is the function? The main function of ciliated epithelium is to move particles. So because of the presence of cilia, ये किस में help करता है, movement of substances में help करता है. So that's it about the epithelium tissues in case of animal tissues. In our next class, I'll start with the rest of the tissues. ठीक है, muscular tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissues. इनके बारे में हम details study करेंगे about animal tissues. You need to make your notes, revise the concept. Plant tissues को बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ना है. बहुत बार हमारे Olympiads में पूछा जाता है हमसे. बहुत बार बहुत सारे questions पूछे जाते हैं. Same with animal tissues. Regular study करते रहिए, notes बनाइए. कोई भी doubt है during the class, WhatsApp number मैंने आपको दिया. You can ask your queries, you can ask your doubt. So we will meet in our next class with the topics, right? Till then, stay tuned. Take care, everyone.